Shalom and greetings from Jerusalem, Jane. I want to make an update to all of you today. An update with happiness and gladness and celebration. And then a day later today, this day is going to be full of mourning, of despair, of heartache, of trauma and sadness. I chose this t-shirt because of the flowers and the beautiful colors. Take this as me passing on a huge bouquet of flowers to all of the amazing mothers around the world. Happy Mother's Day. We honor you, we cherish you, we love you, we embrace you, and we thank you for doing the hardest job in the world, being a mom. Thank you so much, and happy Mother's Day. And I hope all the men out there and all the children out there, you are honoring your mom. Take her out to dinner, buy her a bouquet of flowers or a new perfume, or for all of your kids, go and make a nice drawing and give it to your mom and say, thank you, Mom, today we love you and we honor you, which, by the way, of course, is something we should do every day. So yeah, this is just a t-shirt I put on to honor and send flowers to all the mothers around the world. I'm also celebrating because of the 5th place that Israel took last night in the Eurovision Song Contest. It's a song contest that has taken place for, I think, about 60 years now. I grew up on it. We watched it in my family when it was family friendly. It's not that anymore. Some of it is just like a horror show. But I chose to see it this year because of the situation that we are in. A 20-year-old beautiful lady, girl representing Israel going to the Eurovision needs to be holed up in her hotel room with police protection, driving in a long convoy, going from hotel to the arena, being covered by nearly 100 police officers because Nazi Hamas supporters are out in the street screaming threats to her, screaming for Israel to be disqualified for the Eurovision because of the genocide that we are committing in Gaza. Give me a break. So I can't even imagine the pressure Eden Golan has been under, the booing at her, the shouting at her, the demonstrations. I mean, how sick can you be when you target a 20-year-old woman so she has to stay in a hotel because you hate Israel? It's simply unbelievable. But she rose up like the beautiful flower that she was. She qualified to the final and she sang her heart out yesterday, and I got emotional just sitting watching her. But that's also because of everything that we are going through. That's because of what happened on October 7th when Hamas, ISIS stormed into Israel and raped, decapitated, mutilated, tortured 1,300 people, throwing hand grenades into bus shelters where people were hiding, so people were being blown to pieces, throwing grenades into people's houses, blowing them up, setting their house on fire, just waiting for them to come out so they could execute them. The gang rape, the mutilation, I mean, it's just horrible. So, as you probably know, it's been a very, very difficult time here in Israel since October 7th. And when you then have to see how the whole world is turning against Israel even more and screaming for support for these butchers, for these Nazi, ISIS, Hamas terrorists, it's just unbelievable. So all of Israel just came together as a family last night and just watched with pride when Eden just knocked it out of the park with her song in Eurovision called Hurricane, which really describes how we feel being through a hurricane since October 7th. She ended up taking the 5th place, and actually you did that. Because of you, and I'm sending flowers to all of you amazing people around the world who loves Israel, who stands for truth, who stands for facts, who stands for history, who knows when we open the Bible you're reading about Israel, who knows the lies, the propaganda, the indictment that's coming against Israel is made in the pit of hell. We know the truth about Israel, and you woke up and you voted last night. Thank you so much. As a matter of fact, all the votes coming from the people around the world, Israel took the second highest. That is incredible. So I want to honor all of you amazing people around the world who really stood up to the challenge and showed the rest of these losers out screaming in the streets what an incredible love and support Israel actually has. And all of these Hamas supporters, Israel haters, are going bonkers now also on all my social media, leaving comments, because they can see the support that Israel actually has around the world. So thank you so much. Congratulations to Eden Golan. I just saw now on my TV, she just arrived back home in Israel. So I'm also taking all of these flowers and sending to her and say, well done, young princess, well done. And like I said, it was really, really emotional to watch because of everything that we are going through. So today it's Mother's Day, which is a happy occasion. We are celebrating how well she did. So we are celebrating for all of that. But then we have the black, because when the sun sets, we are going to go into the day of trauma, of pain, of heartache, of despair, where we are honoring and remembering all the people who was killed defending the Jewish homelands, all the people who has been killed, the soldiers, police officers who has been killed in war defending Israel. And then on top of that, also honoring and remembering all the thousands of people, innocent civilians, who has brutally been murdered in horrendous terror attacks here in Israel for no other reason than just being Jewish. And every year that list, that number is getting higher and higher and higher. And of course this year it's going to be devastating after October 7, when Hamas mutilated and decapitated and burned babies and mothers and raped women in front of their husbands and cut off their breasts. The worst massacre since the Second World War, since the Holocaust happened last year. So when the sun goes down tonight, there's going to be a 2-minute siren through all of Israel, and there's going to be the official state ceremony down by the Western Wall. And then tomorrow at 10 o'clock, there's going to be another siren. And then we have memorial services and events taking place around the country. And, you know, because there's not a family in this country who doesn't lost someone or know someone who has lost someone. That's how small this nation is. So everybody's going to be going to the cemeteries tomorrow to sit at the graves of the children who were brutally murdered in a terror attack, for the children to sit at the graveside of their dads who was brutally murdered in terror attacks, who was gunned down, who was chopped down with axes and machetes, which we had only 2 years ago. Several men was butchered with axes on Israel's Independence Day for no other reason than being Jewish. The list of people who have been savagely murdered in terror attack is just growing and growing and growing, and it's just heartbreaking. And all of these savages, all of these vile terrorists who is out murdering the Jews, what happens to them? Well, they're being paid thousands of dollars for murdering Jews. If they survive a terror attack, which they shouldn't, but if they do, they go into jail, they get 3 meals a day, they can take a degree, a university degree in prison, and then they're making money. They are making money every month by murdering Jews, paid by your governments around the world, not stopping it. It is absolutely outrageous. While every year more and more Jewish children has lost their parents because they were murdered in a terror attack, and that list grew extensively since October 7. Many children lost both of their parents, or either dad or mom. So many shattered families, So many broken hearts in this country. And what about the hostages still sitting in Gaza? They haven't been attended once by the Red Cross. Not once have they been attended, been looked at all. Of course, Hamas is not interested in letting the Red Cross see how they are being starved and used and abused and raped. So it's going to be a very, very painful 24 hours for the next here in Israel. And then from that, we are going straight into Israel's Independence Day. And I know many families are saying, you know, that switch is very difficult because we are not done grieving, but now we have to celebrate. But that's why they made it like that here in Israel, that before we can celebrate our independence and prophecies came alive, and the Jewish people are home in their God-given homeland, we need to honor and remember all the people who have been murdered for the Jewish people to be here. So those next 48 hours is going to be very, very... I don't want to start crying, but wow, there is just not one family that's not affected, either by war or by terrorism. It's absolutely, absolutely horrendous. And then the Jewish people have to watch that the evil monsters who murdered their beloved is being paid thousands of dollars for murdering. They are becoming millionaires for murdering a Jew. And the world is out in the street now screaming at Israel about a genocide in Gaza. I mean, the failing mainstream media, shame, shame, shame on you. Shame on you. If the mainstream media have reported the truth about what's happening in Israel, how there's a whole city under Gaza. There's a whole city of tunnel networks under Gaza. And there are weapons everywhere, in houses, in apartments, in schools, in UNRWA clinics, in mosques, in kindergartens, in daycare centers. The whole Gaza Strip is a terror nest. If the mainstream media every day have reported what the Israeli military have found in there and how many terrorists Israel has taken out, then they will see, oh my goodness, the number that's coming out for Gaza, how many has died. It's a lie. It's bogus. It's not true. And Israel is not committing a genocide. If they did their job and shared all the aid trucks that's coming into Gaza with feeding all of the people who was out in the streets, celebrating the massacre of the Jews, who was cursing and spitting at the Jewish hostages paraded down the streets. Some of the hostages were almost used as slaves and housemaids in these innocent civilians in Gaza. I mean, if the mainstream media did their job, we wouldn't have all of these people screaming in the streets, believing all the lies that was coming. So it's just, you know, sometimes you just feel the world has completely lost its moral compass. Israel was brutally assaulted on October 7. Hamas broke a ceasefire that was already existing. About, 5 years ago, I just saw in my memories on Facebook, we were under complete attack. Thousands of rockets were flying in from Gaza on that day, and they were nearly lynching Jewish people in the streets. And yet, your family members are out in the streets calling for the genocide of the Jewish people from the river to the sea. And that's what we are going to see now as we are entering the next 24 hours. That's going to be so painful here in Israel. And you are going to find all families out in the cemetery, sitting at the gravesite of their beloved who was murdered in terror attack, or all the soldiers who has been murdered, killed in action in Gaza against Hamas ISIS, or out in Judea and Samaria, or against Hezbollah in the north of Israel. And this is far, far from over. So for such a time as this, me and my house will always stand with Israel, and Israel will always be in my heart. And I'm just one little lady trying to share the news with what's really happening here, but you certainly don't hear it in mainstream media. So again, flowers for all the moms Happy Mother's Day. Congratulations to Eden Golan for taking in the 5th place. You are number 1 in our hearts. And for the Jewish people on this Memorial Day for the terror victims and for the people killed in war, I stand with you, I cry with you, I cry with you, I shout with you in despair for another Jew being murdered just for being Jewish, while the world is coming against you. The world has just completely lost its moral compass. For such a time as this, we will always stand with Israel. Bye.